Okay. So for the online guys, can you please confirm me once whether I'm like you are able to hear me or not? You can confirm in chat box online. Fine. So guys, in the last session, which topic we have started? We have spoken about the concept of server. Okay. So just I'll go into quickly recap what is the meaning of server and we can go for the further concept. First of all, like what is a server? As per the last session, server serves the services to the end user. This already we've seen. But coming to the type of servers, how many servers we do have? Two. First of all, physical server. Physical server can also be called as on-prem. Who will create and maintain them? We need to create. But what is the limitation of physical server? Cost is going to be very high, as well as time consuming, maintenance, and we need to have the dedicated team. Second one will be virtual server. Which one? So this virtual server can also be referred as cloud server. So here we can create them, as well as who will manage the cloud team. So we have data centers where we can host multiple servers. Okay. Those cloud provider will be completely taking care of your cloud servers. So if we talk about the percentage of cloud, AWS will be having how much of percentage? 34. Azure 20 and GCP 11. So among them, which cloud is better to choose? Why? Because first of all, it comes into the market very early. So it has a lot of experience. Second thing, when if you compare with the market share as well as job offers. So AWS will be having a lot of offers when compared with the other cloud providers. So in AWS, your server can also be called as EC2 or instance. The full form of EC2 will be Elastic Compute Cloud. So how many steps we need to have to create them? 7 steps. So can you tell the 7 step without seeing? Wait, I need to tell start. Okay, right. So 7 steps without seeing now. So what is our step number 1? Name and tag. Why we need to have name and tag, sir? To identify. Why? Because I said like if you go for real time, you'll be having some hundreds of servers. So you need to identify the servers with the help of the names only. If you don't have the names, it is very highly impossible to identify the servers. So second point is going to be AMI. In the AMI, what do we have? OS softwares packages, which is already installed, that is pre-installed. What we can do, we can take it and we can use it without installing. So it is going to save a lot of time for us. And third one will be instance. So we'll be configuring the hardware, which will be having CPU and RAM. So by default, we go for T2 micro with 1 CPU as well as 1 GB of, it is completely free. But whereas if you go for T2 medium, you will be having 2 CPUs and as well as 4 GB of, it's going to be paid. So depending upon the number of CPUs and number of RAM, how much of GB of RAM you are using, the cost is going to vary. Okay. But we can optimize the cost by selecting the proper instances. I'll tell you about the cost cutting optimization in the upcoming session of the AWS part. Next, coming to the step number 4, here you will be having the key pair, which is for login purpose. Public key will be storing by AWS. Private key is going to store by, where will the user store the private keys? In our local laptop. That means if you want to connect to the server, definitely you need to have your laptop. Why? Because your key pair is on laptop only. So if you have the key pair, from there you can connect very safely. And coming to the types of private keys, we'll be having PEM and PPK. So PEM stands for private enhanced mail. PPK stands for putty private key, which we are going to see in the upcoming class again. So guys, here how many steps like you are seeing here? Every step will take 1 session to complete. But here I am giving a high level overview of what is this point and why we need to use it. But remember, each of the step I'm going to take at least 1 session to give the greater understanding about how the AWS servers are going to work. Step number 5 will be networking. So we'll be having VPC and security groups. So VPC will be having privacy, security, isolation. And coming to types of VPC, how many types we have by default? By default, we have one type only, default and custom. Which one we gonna use? Default or customer? For practical purpose, you can use anything. You can use default or you can go for customization. But in real time, definitely we need to use custom. If we use default, it is not gonna be very secure for us. So coming to the security group, it is to allow the traffic. See, the meaning of traffic is nothing but request and response. So this both together, what exactly we can call it as traffic. So by default, our server will be having the range of 0 to 65,535. This is our range. In this range, there are n number of ports we are going to use in the real time. If we can't open the port, you cannot able to communicate with the service. If you can't communicate with service, how can your server send you the response? No. And final, what is the major port we need to keep focus on? SSH. The port number will be 22. So the basic use of SSH is going to be connect to the server. Next, step number 6 will be storage part here. We are going to have EBS volume. This stands for elastic block storage. By default, how much of GB we are going to have? By default, but for free tier, maximum we can go up to 30 GB of EBS volume. And coming to the maximum data, we can consume 16 terabytes of data. But in real time, terabytes of data is not required to run any kind of application. But we have the chance to use. And seventh step is going to be the summary. So these are the 7 steps what we have seen in the last session. So now again, in today's class, I'm going to create a new EC2 instance here. And guys, here are you seeing the multiple servers here? This is what we can call as cluster. What do we call as? I'll just give a small overview, just a small overview. So have anyone done AWS course here before coming to this course? None of you. Who's that? No, my question is, have any one of you done AWS course before to it? Yes or no? No. Okay. So from the online, I can see a couple of people are raising the hands. Okay. So guys, I'll tell you one thing actually. So, okay, Ram Charan, I think so he raised the hand. Okay. So Ram, I'm asking you the question like how much of time it required to create one VPC along with subnets, load balancer, auto scaling group with IAM roles. How much time it will take to create all of these resources in AWS cloud? So like you said that you have done the course. So I'm asking you the question. How much time it required to create end-to-end VPC with 4 servers attached to load balancer and attached to the auto scaling group with CloudWatch enabled metrics? You can ping me on comment section, Ram, actually. 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. But you know, we can do it within 1 minute. How many minutes? If we run a single command, there is a high-end automation tool called KOps, which you are going to learn in the Kubernetes. If I run a single command, that single command can do entire work, that too manually, not automatically. Only one single command is enough to create this end-to-end. Okay. I'm just giving an overview. So I'm going to let this cluster run and I'll be launching my own EC2 instance here. So by name of the server is going to be web server. I'm going to give it as. Okay. And next, so here AMI, I'm going to take it as Amazon Linux 2. Of course, you can take Amazon Linux 2023 also. Anything will be fine. Next, instance type, I'm going to select by default T2 Micro. Coming to the key pair, already in the last session, I have given a key pair, that is ABC key pair, right? So guys, remember, if you create a key pair, same key pair you can use to hundreds of servers. And if you create one security group, that same security group you can use to the rest of the servers. So whenever if you are creating the new server, no need to create the new security group as well as new key pair every time. Already in the last session, we create one security group with the name called all traffic. Okay. You can use this security group and you can use the same key pair which already you created on the last session. So EBS volume by default will be 8 GB and click on launch instance. So this is the way how exactly we launch the instance. But before I go and proceed for the concept today, how many of you are new for today's session? Day 1. Is anyone new for today's session? Only one. Okay. Okay. So basically we have done with one practical class. Don't worry, we will provide that backup for you. So at the end of session, please meet me. Okay. So today I'm going to teach you the entire new concept. So your old class is not going to relate for this new class. Why? Because this is entirely new concept. Fine. So guys, here in today's class, I'm going to teach you about the operating system. What I'm going to teach you about? Already you know operating system, right? What is the operating system? Operating system is a bridge between human and a machine. Here machine can be computer, laptop, mobile, smart TVs, smartwatch, anything. Okay. And one of the note point I'm going to tell you is, so in my class, no need to write the notes. Why? Because this entire notes, whatever I'm writing, I'll give it for you. Still, if you want to write the notes, I'll give some time for you. Okay. While I'm explaining, please try to have the focus on the board. Why? Because if I'm telling a point, if you're writing the notes, you might miss that point. So the upcoming points are going to be very confused for you if you miss a single point. So I will highly recommend all of you to close the notes first of all. In the middle, I'll give you 5 minutes of time to write the entire notes. So same thing with the online also. Don't try to write the notes. I'll be giving these notes for you. Okay. Okay. So now tell me what is an operating system. Guys, tell me what is an operating system? It's a bridge between human and a machine. So everybody will tell this definition. But in practical world, can anyone tell me what is the operating system in a real world? You can think any kind of topic for it. Definition, you know, what is the definition of operating system? It's a bridge between human versus machine. Why? For communication purpose. Correct or not, sir? Can anyone correlate this for the real world living? Anyone? Mobile? SIM. Okay. Paytm. Oh, ATM Mishna. Then still, I'm expecting some interesting real world examples from you. At least one of you. Okay. Let me explain with a scenario. Let me take the paint here. So in your BTech graduation days, you might have experienced these kind of scenarios all the time. For example, let's take a class. You might be from CSC or EC or from any XYZ batch. So in your class, there is a silent boy. He was very innocent. Seems to be, but not. Okay. So he likes a girl very much. Now he want to tell to that girl, I like you. But he can't dare to tell to the girl that I'm gonna like you. In that case, what is gonna happen? He is going to have one of the greatest friend. Now what he do? He's gonna tell to his friend, Macha, like I like that girl very much. Now what this Macha is gonna do? He is going to tell the same thing to the girl. That means he cannot communicate directly. Here, what exactly I'm trying to tell for you is here. For example, it is his name is Mohan. For example, let's take like Mohan. Not. I'll take his name as Sai, which is one of the greatest name in the Telugu states. Okay, so his name is Sai. Okay, and the other girl name is gonna be Radhika. Eh? Now Sai likes innocent Sai. It's not normal Sai, innocent Sai. Innocent Sai likes Radhika very much. But unfortunately, he can't tell directly to Radhika. Why? Because Sai is from Telugu state, but Radhika is from Punjabi. Communication gap. Now there is a friend called Ravi. I think all of you know this name, right? Very popular name. Now here, what exactly Sai want to do is he want to tell to Radhika that he likes Radhika. But due to communication problem, he cannot able to tell to Radhika. Now he is gonna tell to Ravi. So now what Ravi is gonna do? Ravi is gonna pass this information to the Radhika. Same thing. Exactly what is going to happen for the computers also. See, as of now, here these are users. I'm gonna mark them as user. So basically, user know Telugu, Hindi, English, and if any BTS fans are there, some kind of Korean language, they will know. But here, if you go for computer, here computer is nothing but Radhika. So computer will know about binary language. That means apart from zeros and ones, computer cannot able to speak anything. Now this user is trying to tell, hey computer, open a file. So if user want to tell computer to open a file, then a user is going to tell 011010, na? Is he going to tell like that? No. So definitely here we are going to have a communication problem. That is the reason why exactly we are going to use something called as operating system here. What I'm going to use? Operating system. What is the primary functionality of this operating system? You know, whatever the input that is going to given by the user, this operating system will take that input and convert into the binary language and gives that to the computer. And unfortunately, whatever the output that is going to be given by the computer, again, the same output is going to be translated to human readable language. This is the basic definition of operating system. Okay. Now, in this example, what is the first point you understand? Humans cannot interact with the computers. Why? Because computers will know only binary language. So to speak or to communicate with the computers, definitely we need to have the operating system. What we need to have? Operating system. That is the reason here why I have tell operating system is the bridge between human and machine. Okay. Human and a machine. Here machine can be a server or machine can be a computer. It can be a laptop or it can be mobile. It can be any kind of electronic gadget. Of course, you said that, sir, operating system is the bridge between human and a machine. That was correct. But here now my question is, if I talk about the types of operating system, how many types do we have? How many types? 2. What are those? First one is Windows, which is very, very famous. Second one will be Mac OS. So Windows is presenting by which company? Microsoft. And Mac OS? Correct. But there is one more thing that is going to be called as here Linux. Which one? Guys, I'm telling you this word for you. It can be called as Linux or it can be called as Linux. You can pronounce on the both ways. Why? Because English will have different kind of accent. Right? So in India, we will pronounce word with some different accent. If you go to USA or if you go to Germany or if you go to Spain, their pronunciation is going to be different. Okay. Don't worry about the pronunciation. You can be called as Linux or it can be called as Linux. But my major point is whenever if I ask to any person, when they come to the interview, I'll ask the very first question, how many type of OS we do have? They'll tell Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Interview is khatam. Why? Because the Linux will not come under the operating system. Linux will be called as kernel. What do we call as? So the major mistake what exactly going to think is Linux you are going to consider as operating system, but it is not an OS. Then what it is? Linux is a kernel. It's a kernel. I'll tell what is the meaning of kernel. Okay. Again, like here, if you go for the pronunciation of kernel, you can be called on 2 ways. You can be called as kernel or you can be called as kernel. Both will be same. Which one is good to pronounce? Kernel or kernel? Please. Tell me, which one is good to pronounce? Kernel. So R should be rolled anamata. But again, if you can go and you can pronounce on any ways, it can be called as kernel or it can be called as kernel. Sir, here my question is, what is the definition of kernel? Of course, you are telling Linux is a kernel. I can understand. But what is the major point is, what is the definition of kernel means? Kernel is the lowest level of operating system. If I have operating system, the lowest level of operating system is what exactly we can call as kernel. So I'm going to quote here, kernel can be called as lowest level of operating system. Is it clear for you? Okay, sir, you said about the kernel, it's lowest level of operating system you said, that was very fine. But you know, exactly the main thing is, whatever the operating system can do, Windows and Mac OS, can Linux kernel do the same thing? Of course, it can do more better things when you compare with Windows and Mac OS. I will tell you, first of all, the importance of Linux. Then you tell me which one is better, Windows or Mac OS. Okay. I'll tell you one statement. Try to listen the statement very, very carefully. Without Linux, we cannot survive on a single day. How many of you agree with the statement? Without Linux, you cannot survive a single day in this modern world. So 3 to 4 persons are raising the hand. I'll tell you what is the reason. So if I talk about the importance of Linux. First of all, I'm not teaching what is Linux completely. First of all, I'll tell you why it is important. So then I can go and teach. See, first thing will be, if you talk about servers, 90% of the servers, whatever we are using on real time, is completely depending on Linux platform. How much of percentage? 90. Basically, it can be more than 90. I think it's approximately 93, but I'm taking here 90. Second one, 85% of the smartphones, 85% of the smartphones completely depending upon Linux. How many of you are using iPhone here? Raise your hands. None of you, huh? That means everyone is Android, right? Your Android phone is completely like running on the Linux modified kernel only. If there is no Linux, there is no Android. If there is no Android, how will you work with the smartphones? How will you work with the gadgets? Is it possible? No. So 90% of the servers are completely Linux based, as well as 85% of the smartphones is completely Linux based. As well as third one, if you go to the top 500 supercomputers, I think you know supercomputers, right? Generally, where we use supercomputers in the weather reporting, as well as for the satellites, as well as for the military defense. So these kind of areas, as well as in medical field also, we can use supercomputers. If you take top 500 supercomputers, every supercomputer in the world is using the Linux operating system only. Now, if you go for servers, we are using the Linux, and even for smartphones, we are using the Linux, and even for supercomputers, we are using the Linux. And the last one, electronic gadgets. Electronic gadgets. Our smartwatches, even smart TVs, even refrigerators, even washing machine, like high end I'm talking about. So these are also equipped with the Linux operating system only. Now tell me one thing, without server, smartphone, supercomputers and gadgets, can we survive on a modern day? Is it possibly practically? No, that means if you don't have Linux, everything will be stop working. This is the importance of Linux. You might ask me, sir, till now we all are comfortable on Windows. But why you are teaching at Linux means if you can't understand Linux, you will not work on real time. I'm telling you, Linux is the fundamental skill that need to be have for every developer, every tester, every data engineer, every data scientist, every database admin, and for every DevOps engineer. That means simply I can tell, if you go to any company, if there are 100 software engineers, minimum 98 software engineers will know about the Linux. I can bet you. Without learning the Linux, it is very, very difficult. It is not possible, I can say. It is not possible to crack the job on DevOps or either on cloud. So it is the fundamental skill that everyone need to learn. That is the reason I'm starting the course with the Linux. I can skip this Linux and I can start DevOps, but I won't do it. Why? Because if you can't understand the Linux, DevOps concept will be very, very difficult for you to understand. So even though it will take some time, so let's go and start with the Linux only. Okay. So now you tell me, have you seen the importance of Linux here? Now all of you tell me, is Linux mandatory or not? Everyone. And all, and what about you? Is Linux mandatory or not, guys? Can you please confirm on chat box? Yes. So it is mandatory. Okay, sir, you said Linux is going to be very, very important here. I'll accept. But what are the major applications we are having for Linux? See, application means it's not apps. Application means where you are implementing and depending upon the Linux operating system. For example, all of you watch movies? Everyone, right? So in the movies, we'll be seeing a lot of VFX, right? That VFX designing systems are completely using Linux only. Okay, so I can tell here in VFX industry, we will use the Linux platform. Second one, you know, space stations. In space stations, we will use Linux, as well as, you know, like a cyber security team. I think all of you know about cyber security, right? So there also we are highly using the Linux. And step number 4 will be, if you go to the cricket, I think all of you watch cricket, right? For cricket analysis and cricket analytics also, we are using the Linux. And fifth one, I can say, military, I think you know military, right? So in military, like simply I can call it as defense actually. In defense, we are using the Linux. And if you go for stock market, in stock market also we are using the Linux only. That means everywhere. See, if I start writing this one, our class will not be enough. Right? Because that many areas we are implementing Linux here. So these are the major things where we are completely depending upon the Linux. Okay. So first of all, VFX industries as well as space stations, in cyber crimes as well as cricket, defense, stock market. Even if you go for Bitcoin, I think you know Bitcoin, right? So there also completely we are depending upon the. That means simply I can say in the modern world, 95% of the works what you are doing daily is depending upon the Linux. If there is no Linux, we cannot work as smoothly as we are going now. Fine, sir, you said about the application. Now, if I talk about the Linux operating system introduction, okay? So I'm going to talk about intro of Linux now. Till now, I haven't spoke anything about Linux. I said, what is an operating system? And I said, what is Linux called as? And I said, importance of Linux. And I said, the application, that means where we are using the Linux. But now I'm going to talk about Linux. So unlike we are having Windows and Mac OS, this Linux will not come under the operating system category. It's a already, you know, okay. So Linux comes into the market in the year of 1991. Sir, who invented Linux for it? Means there is a person called Linus Torvalds. Which one? Linus Torvalds. He is the person who invented the Linux operating system. And you know, this Linux is a completely free and open source operating system. Free and open source. Guys, you need to understand this word very carefully. What is the meaning of free and open source? Means if we talk about Windows or Mac OS, do we need to purchase license or not? What is the cost of license? Cost. Huh? 10,000. Okay. 5,000. Okay. Some X price, whatever it can be. But is it free? No. And if you go for Mac OS also, it's not completely free for you. But if you go for Windows, we need not to install any kind of license. It's completely free. You can download and you can use it. Second thing, what is the meaning of open source? You know, open source means this code is visible publicly. If I go and type here Linux code, you can see the Linux code on the internet. If you can go and see. Are you seeing the code of Linux operating system here? Guys, this is publicly visible. That means you can take this code, you can modify the code, and you can publish to other one also. Publish means you can give it for example, C. If I know C programming language, I can modify the Linux code and I can make it in a different version and I can distribute for all of you. See, whatever the tools you are going to learn in the DevOps, these tools are completely free and open source. That means to install all the tools in DevOps, we are not going to pay any money. And every source code tool is going to be written on the public platform. That means you can see the code, you can modify the code, and you can distribute. Here I am writing the attributes. What is the meaning of open source? Means we can see the code, we can modify the code, and we can distribute the code. So coming to the programming language, sir, Linux is completely built on top of C programming language. Which one? C programming. So listen to this very carefully. Which kind of programming language we have written here? C programming. My question is, why we use C programming language for Linux? Tell me any few programming languages, you know. First of all, Java. Second, Python. Right? C, C++, .NET, C Sharp, Swift, Scala, Kotlin. This all will comes under the next category. Fine. Now my question is, why only C? Why not Java and why not Python? Sorry? No, that's not the answer. Eh? No. Think logically. If you apply logic, then you'll get the answer. C is very easy language. That was wrong, Irfan. And fast response, not. That is also not. Sorry. C is base of any programming language. No. Again, not. Fast compiling, mid-level language. Okay, then. Oops. Okay. Even Java is also oops, right? How about Python? It's also oops. Why C? C, system level? No, no, wrong answer. It's the oldest language. You are somewhat close to the answer. Very close. Huh? For that mission, no, no. You are talking about standalone. No, that's not correct again. But your answer is somewhat close. Hmm? Correct. It was exactly. Okay. See, guys, if I talk about Java or if I talk about Python, so if you go to the history of Python, Python comes in the year 1991, at the end of 1991. And even if you go for Java, Java comes in the year 1995. But if I talk about C programming language, you know when C comes into the market? In the 1972. Which year? That means at the time of implementing the Linux operating system, the only famous programming language we have is C programming language. Of course, you can ask me, sir, Python also came on the same year, right? Of course, Python came in the mid of the year. At that time, nobody knows about Python. Okay. The major reason why we select C programming for the Linux is this is the major reason. Python and Java is not available at the time in the market. The only available language is going to be, that is the reason still now we are developing with a C programming language. If you go and see what is the C language percentage here, and if you go for assembly language, of course at that time we have assembly level language, so it is 0.7, shell 0.4, and Python 0. So that means we can conclude that so this complete C programming language is implemented for the Linux operating system till now also. Of course, we have very good programming languages like Python and Java, and we have more greater programming language called Go. You know, there is a language called Piglet. You know Python, right? I'll tell something for you here. Basically, if you write a code in Java, okay, it may take 10 lines, but in Python, how many lines it will take? Mostly 6 to 5 lines. I'll take it as 6. But if you go for language called Piglet, which is the very advanced level language for the Python, it can complete the code within 4 lines only. Which one? 4 lines. But nobody knows about this programming language. Why? Because this is not very, very implemented in the real time. So as already we discussed, there are almost all 900 plus programming languages in this generation. We need not to know about all the programming languages. Okay. But I'm just giving an overview. Fine. So coming to the programming language, which programming language we are using for implementation of Linux? What is the major reason? It's the oldest level, it's the oldest language, and at that time, this is the only available language. Guys, initial name of the Linux operating system is gonna be Freaks. Initial name. See, there is a very big history for this Linux programming language. I'll just give the glimpse of the history. Basically, in the year 1990, there is a student called Linus Torvalds. He is studying in a university called Helsinki. University name is, and it is on Finland. I think all of you know Finland country, right? So in Finland country, there is a university called Helsinki. So in that Helsinki University, we have a student called Linus Torvalds. At that time, their professor give a task for this Linus Torvalds. But at that time, the only available operating system is Unix. So we know Unix is not a free one. It's going to be paid. As a graduation student, he doesn't have that much of amount to afford the operating system. Now he got an idea. Instead of buying that operating system with some X amount, if we create the same operating system with a different name for the free version, lot of people are going to save money or not, sir? So he got this idea and he started working on that idea since 1990. By the end of the 1991, he delivered the first version of the Linux. Initially, he thought to give the name called Freaks. What is the name he thought to give? Frix. But after that realizing, instead of giving the name Frix, I'll rename it as Linux. Why? Because Unix is the very famous one. Everybody can simply hear this word and understand. So he want to replicate the same name. He want to replicate the same Unix name, but he cannot give the same name, right? That is the reason why he added the L. So if you go and see what is the spelling of Unix here, but what is the spelling of Linux here? So it is similar of pronunciation or not, sir? He just crisscrossed the words. Why? Because in order to assemble the same kind of operating system with similar name. Okay. So since 1991, lot of people started using the Linux programming language. Why? Because first of all, it is free. Second one, it is open source. Third one, if you know some C programming language, you can modify the code and you can get your custom operating system. For example, see, in the Linux operating system, okay, there is a command to create the file. The command is going to be touch command. Which command? So if I write the command called touch, okay, it is going to create a file. But if you want to modify, you can give the command TO. Even though if you go TO, you are going to get the same output. So this is the original command, but this is the modified command where you can use to run any kind of command. That means what I'm trying to tell is initially they will give the operating system, but if you want to modify as per your requirement, you can modify. What is the command to create a file? Touch. But if you don't want to give this touch command to create the file, you want to give the command called TO. This is possible. You can do it. So these kind of features we are going to have for the Linux operating system. But for Windows, can we do those kind of customizations? It's not possible. That is the primary reason why a lot of people are migrated from the Unix operating system to Linux. First one is free and open source. Second one is it can be customized as per our requirement. So now is the intro of Linux clear for all of you guys? Everyone. Online, can you please confirm is the Linux intro clear for all of you or not? Okay, fine. Okay, sir. Now you said about the Linux intro. But for example, if I try to use Linux operating system, what are the major advantages I'm going to have? I'm going to talk about advantages. First one, it is free and open source. So it is going to be greatest advantage or not, sir? Second one, here we need not to install any kind of antivirus software. If you take Windows, is it going to recommend antivirus software or not, sir? Of course, for Mac, it is not mandatory. Why? Because it comes with the built-in antivirus software. But whereas Windows definitely need to install antivirus software. But I'm telling you, in Linux, there is no requirement to install any kind of antivirus software. Why? Because security is a inbuilt feature for the Linux operating system. So here I'm writing antivirus free. Okay. Next, third one is going to be, so it is multi-user based, sir. It is multi-user. That means multiple people can simultaneously work on this operating system. Fourth advantage will be, for example, how many of you are having Windows laptop here? Everyone, right? How frequently your laptop is going to hang? How frequently? Is it going to hang frequently or not, sir? But I'm telling you, Linux operating system will never hang. For example, if your Windows operating system is hanging for once in a week, but this Linux operating system will hang once in 6 months. That much of efficiency it is going to work. Okay. So I'm going to call it as efficient. What I'm going to call it as? Efficient. Fifth one is going to be, sir, we can install any kind of programming language. Installation of softwares and languages. That means programming languages. Okay. You can install anything. And if you compare the installation speed, if you install Java in Windows and if you install Java in Linux, Linux will install the any kind of software or any kind of language very speedily. If you want to check, you can check. Just to go and try to download Java in your Windows system as well as in your Linux system. Linux will make it very speedily. Okay. Next one is gonna be, it can be supporting with all kind of network. Okay. Supports with all networks. So these are the primary advantages. Of course, there are a lot of advantages we can tell, but I'm going to tell about the primary advantages. Again, coming to the advantages, what is the first advantage? It is going to be free and open source, and it doesn't require any kind of antivirus software, and it is multi-user based. That means multiple people can able to work simultaneously. And coming to the efficiency, it is going to work very efficiently. So your Windows might hang, and Mac OS also sometimes it might hang, but Linux is not going to hang as per when we compare with Windows and Mac OS. And coming to the installation part, so installation of softwares and languages will be very speed when you compare with the Windows. And lastly, it is going to support with all kind of, it can be LAN, it can be WAN, it can be MAN, any kind of network, it is going to support. So these are the primary advantages we are having with the operating system of, like kernel of Linux. Now tell me, if you go and see from the starting point, we have seen importance of Linux and we have seen application of Linux. That means where we are using the Linux, as well as we have seen the intro of Linux, and we have seen the, now hearing of all of this. Now can we say, is Linux going to be important or not, sir? Without Linux, can we survive in this modern day? And without Linux, are you going to place on the DevOps or AWS? No. So that is the reason we need to learn at least the basics of Linux. So guys, in our course, we are going to have 1.5 months of class for you for the Linux sessions. But that is not this class. In upcoming days, there is a new batch going to start for you. But here, I'm going to cover the basic part of Linux for you. That means how much of basics that we require to start DevOps, that much of basics I'm going to cover for you. Okay. But again, separately, we will conduct the Linux class for all of you for 35 days minimum. Okay. There you are going to learn the end-to-end Linux. But here, I'm going to teach you how much of Linux required to start the DevOps course, that much of points I'm going to teach for you. Is the point clear for all of you? Fine. Online, is the point clear for all of you? Whatever I said now? Can you confirm me once? Okay. Fine. So N/W means network, Syed. Okay. So guys, here I'm going to ask some questions for you. So basically, this is not important for the subject, but it is important for the knowledge. I think all of you are having computers, servers, and everything, you know, right? My first question for all of you is, what is the first operating system? You know, operating system and types. But my question is, what is the first operating system? Wrong. Can anyone tell me what is the first operating system? Yeah. Linux is not. It's not correct answer. Unix is also not a correct answer. Sorry? Pager not. So Unix, no. iOS. It's not. Device also not. Correct. So it is GMNAA-IO. So it is given by the General Motors. I think you know GM company, right? General Motors. So the first operating system that we ever have in the history is gonna be GM operating system. So I'm writing here, first operating system is GMNAA-IO. That is the first operating system we have in the market. And you know when this OS comes into the market? 1954. At which year? 1950. 1994, no, 1954 it is. Okay. And coming to the first computer. You know what is the first computer? First computer is called as ENIAC. Which one? ENIAC. Full form is gonna be electronic numeric integrator, and C stand for computer. So it comes on the year 1945. That means 2 years before the independence. So first operating systems comes on the year 1954, and first computer comes in the year 19. 45. Okay. So basically these 2 points are not required for us. But the reason why I'm telling is, guys, from this course, you are not going to learn the subject. Here you are going to learn the knowledge. Learning the subject is different. Learning the knowledge is going to be different. My ultimate goal is to provide the pure knowledge for all of you. Of course, in the knowledge, you will be learning subject also. But apart from subject, whatever the knowledge that I have in this software, so I'm going to share with you. Okay. And coming to the next part here, when is the first server got created in the real time? Can anyone tell me? First server, it comes in the year 1991. You know Tim Berners-Lee? So he was the person who invented the World Wide Web. If we go for any website, we have www dot, right? That is invented by the person called Tim Berners-Lee in the year 1991. Okay. So these are not going to be asked on any kind of interview, but the reason I'm telling is for your knowledge. Again, what is the first OS we are having in the market? GM. So it was given by General Motors in the year 1954, as well as first computer is for ENIAC. So it comes in the year 1945. That is primarily used for mathematical calculations at that time. And the first server comes into the market on year is 1990 by the Tim Berners-Lee. That's it. Okay, sir, fine now. So currently here we are talking about the operating system. Let's go back to the OS concept. Sir, if you want to understand the Linux, you need to understand the architecture of Linux. What we need to understand? So if I talk about the architecture, you need to understand something called as components. What you need to understand? So Linux, in Linux, we are having majorly 3 components. First one will be kernel. Second one will be daemon. And third one will be shell. So guys, if you take any operating system, these 3 will be the common. Of course, I'm talking about Linux here. For Linux, kernel, daemon, and shell. Sir, what are these components mean? See, kernel deals with the hardware of our computer. Simply, I can write here, deal with hardware. Hardware means like what are the RAM, what are the CPU, and what are the ROM we are having. Complete operating system is going to be managed with the kernel. Second one, daemon. Daemon deals with the background services. Background services. That means whenever, if you are starting the computer, there are some background process running. That means like booting the computer as well as loading the predefined softwares and loading the default applications. So everything will be dealing with the daemon only. So daemon deal with the background services. And last one will be shell. Shell deals with the user input. Shell deals with the, that means if a user give a command, shell will take the command, execute it, and it is going to give the output. Or if user given a program to execute, shell will take the program, execute the program, and gives you the output. And if a user gives the script, shell will take the script, execute the script, and it is going to give the output. So that means if you want to interact with the operating system, you need to give input to the shell, will process the input and gives you the output. So these are the major components of our Linux kernel. Again, I'm going to tell you one more time. First component will be kernel. Kernel deals with the, so here I'm writing example also. What are the examples here? CPU, RAM, and so on. Of course, OS also comes up with the part. Second one is going to be daemon. Daemon deal with the background service like the booting messages, as well as some background services like starting the default applications and some other tasks. Third one is going to be shell. Shell is going to deal with the user input. What are the user inputs here? A user input can be a command, or it can be a script, or it can be a program, anything. So I'll be going to explain with the small example so you can get the clarity. So now before I go for the explanation part of Linux, again one more time. Kernel, daemon, shell. Kernel deals with hardware. Daemon deals with background process. And shell deals with the user input. Now I'm going to tell you behind the scenes how the Linux operating system will work. For example, let's take a small example of playing a audio. For example, in our device, we have a audio or video. If I want to play that video, how Linux is going to execute the small task, I'll explain you. So if I go and take the image here in the Google, I'll be typing here Linux architecture. You'll be getting a lot of images here. So I'll take any one of the image and I'll explain. Are you seeing this one? We can take this as example and we can explain this. Let me download to my local. Linux. So let me open this one, guys. So I'll tell about what is the meaning of boot, like Kranti, okay? So guys, see this diagram here very carefully. See, what is my goal here? In my hardware, I have a file. I want to open that file or I want to open any kind of application, anything. For example, see, I have an application called VLC Media Player. I think all of you know VLC Media Player, right? This VLC Media Player want to play a song. Where is the song going to be located? On my hardware or not, sir? On my disk only, right? Every information of your system is going to be stored on the disk only. Local disk D, local disk E, and local disk F. So for example, in my local disk D, I have a song to play. Now I have the VLC Media Player application also. Now primarily, if I open the application, so I'm talking to application, VLC Media Player. I want to play a song. Now you go and play a song. So by default, application will not interact with the hardware. So application will give input to the shell. What is the responsibility of shell? Shell will take the input, execute and gives the output. Now application is going to ask to shell. So shell, I want to play a song. So as an application, I don't have any permission to interact with the hardware. Now you take the input and you give me the song. I'll play the song for the user. Now what shell is going to do is shell will not interact with the hardware. Why? Because what is the main shell purpose here? Shell's main purpose is to take the input and gives the, but it cannot interact with the hardware. Now shell will go and ask to the kernel, like you deal with all background service, na? So a application is asking me to play a song. He given me the input. I cannot interact with the hardware. So you go and interact with the hardware and gives me the song. I'll play for the user. Now what the kernel will do? Kernel will fetch the song from the hardware. Okay. Now the output is on the kernel place. Now kernel will give output to the shell and shell will give the output to the, from the application. Is the song going to play or not, sir? This is how the Linux is going to work internally. Same process. Again, I'll recap everything for you. If you missed for the first time, listen to it very carefully. What is my main agenda is I want to play a song from the VLC Media Player. It is my application. Currently, where is my song? My song is inside the hardware, right? So by default, this application will not interact with the hardware. Why? Because there are some protocols to follow. Now, what this application will do is application will give the input to the shell. So application is going to ask to shell. So I want to, this user want to play a song. He is asking me to play a song, but I don't interact with hardware. Na? You go and ask to the hardware. Now shell will take input from the application and gives it to the kernel. Now kernel is going to fetch the song from the, once from the hardware, the song is going to kernel. Kernel is going to give it to, and shell is going to give to the, from the application, song is going to play and user is going to have the task finished. Correct or not, sir? This is how the Linux is going to work internally in our computers. If you understand the architecture, you can work very, very easily. The only point I want to convey for all of you is you need to understand mainly 2 points. First of all, shell. Second one, kernel. If you understand these both points, you can do lot of tasks in the Linux operating system. What is the primary functionality of the shell? Take the input, executes and gives the, but can shell directly interact with the hardware? Who will interact? Kernel, correct? So kernel interact with the hardware and whatever the output given by the hardware, kernel is going to give it to the shell. So is the architecture clear for everyone here? All of you. Online, can you please confirm, is the architecture clear for all of you or not? Fine. So it was clear for you? Great. Okay, so now said about the architecture also, but I have here one of the biggest question for all of you is, what is a flavor here? I think when it comes to Linux, you might heard about two things, Red Hat and Ubuntu. Have you ever heard about this? What is Red Hat and Ubuntu? Red Hat is a Linux, Kappa. It's symbol of a Red Hat, man. Huh? That means if I ask open SUSE, that is the symbol of Tonda. Are you going to say Tonda or what? You know Tonda, right? Yeah? Lizard. So Red Hat is the like symbol what we are going to have. Okay. But I am asking, what is this Red Hat as well as what is this Ubuntu? See, there is a concept called flavors. What is the concept here? Flavor. Okay. So this flavor can also be called as distribution. What we can call as? For example, let's take the basic example. I think all of you know iPhone, right? What is the latest version of iPhone we are having now? 15, right? So what is the advanced version of 15? It is 15 plus, right? And what is the advanced version of 15 plus? 15 Pro. And what is the advanced version of 15 Pro? 15 Pro. That means whatever the features I'm having on 15, same features I have on 15 plus, but I have some additional features also. Similarly, whatever the features I'm having on 15 plus, same features I have on 15, but I have some additional features. Again, same features, whatever I'm having on 15 Pro, I'll be having on 15 Pro Max also. But what is the difference here? Additional features. Similarly, if you see this below example, 15, 15 plus, 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, all this will come under the same product or not, sir? All this will come under the iPhone product only. Which product? iPhone. But the only difference is features. What is the only difference? Features. So similarly, Linux is the main product here. What is the main product? Linux. So there are some thing called as Red Hat here, Ubuntu, okay, CentOS, Open, SUSE, as well as Rocky Linux, Alma Linux, Kali Linux, and Linux Mint, and Linux Arc. If you start writing like this, it will take almost 100 and 120 lines minimum. Why? Because we are having lot of features. See, if you know C programming language, you can create your new flavor also. I already said, na, Linux is free and open source. If you go to internet, you can take the code, you can modify the code, and you can create the new flavor. And you can give that flavor to any of the person. But to do that, the only thing you need to have is, you need to know the C programming language very, very deeply. Okay. So this Linux is the main product. Just like iPhone is the main product, 15, 15 plus, 15 Pro are the sub-products of the iPhone. So Linux is the main product. But Red Hat, Ubuntu, CentOS, OpenSU are the different versions of the Linux. Everywhere, if you take any of these, all this will be having the Linux only. But there are only some small differences. For example, in Red Hat, I use yum package manager to install package. But in Ubuntu, I can use apt. What I can use? So depends upon the flavor, few commands are going to change. Just like if you compare iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus, there are only few changes, correct or not, sir? Maximum 90 to 95% same features, but only 5% of the features are going to be vary. Here also, when you compare Red Hat with Ubuntu, 90 to 95% same commands and same process, but only that 5% you will be having the change. So if you ask me, sir, among them, which one we are going to learn means, in real time, majorly we use Ubuntu. If you go, 70% of the organizations will prefer Ubuntu. Okay. After Ubuntu, the major used one is going to be No, sir, it is CentOS. Which one? First highly used is gonna be Ubuntu. Second one is gonna be CentOS. Then Red Hat. Then after that, Amazon Linux. I think here I missed it here. Let me write Amazon Linux. If I want to give the ranking, so Ubuntu will be the first ranked. CentOS will be the second ranked. Third one will be Red Hat, and fourth one will be Amazon. Okay, so these four are the most frequently as well as most widely used flavors of the Linux kernel. Is the point clear for all of you? But you can ask me, sir, in our course, which one we are going to learn? We are going to learn four of those. So I'm going to teach you Red Hat. I'm going to teach you Ubuntu. I'm going to teach you CentOS. I'm going to teach you Amazon Linux. But which one is easy to use means Amazon Linux will be very, very, very easy to use. So in Ubuntu, we have one disadvantage. In Ubuntu, everything we need to do manually. How we need to do? But whereas in this Amazon Linux, there are some predefined packages, we can use it freely. But this Ubuntu, I'm telling you now, it is free and open source only. But the disadvantage of using Ubuntu is everything will manual. That is the only limitation. Fine. So is the concept of flavors or distributions clear for all of you? What is the meaning of flavor? Flavors are nothing but different versions of the operating system. Correct? So Linux is the same kernel we are having, but the difference will be for Red Hat, Ubuntu, CentOS, we have some small differences. Okay, sir, fine. So now currently, here if we can go and see, already we are having a server. Are you seeing the server here? For this server, which flavor we are using means we are using Amazon Linux flavor. Which one? Amazon Linux. Let me show you how to connect. So guys, directly you can go and click on connect here. This is going to connect to my browser. Let me show you. See, by using this browser, we can be able to connect to our EC2 instance. That means our server. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to tell some basic comments for you today. Why? Because today entirely we have done with the theoretical part only. So let me add some part of practical for it. Okay. In the theoretical part, we have seen the complete information about what is OS and why we need to use it. What are the types of OS? What is the advantage, importance, applications of Linux, as well as what are the flavors of Linux also we have seen. So now coming to the practical part, here I'm going to tell you some of the basic commands for the Linux. Okay, these will be the basic commands only. So just try to listen how these commands are working here. So I'm connecting to my EC2 instance here, guys. So let me connect to my terminal. See, commands you can work here or you can work from the terminal also. So I'm going to show you working from terminal. Just give me a second. See, the first command I'm going to teach for all of you is by default, whenever if you log into server, you will be on EC2 user. Which user? Why? Because I'm creating the Amazon Linux. For Amazon Linux, the default user will be. But if I want to work as a root user, the command will be sudo command. Which command? Sudo -i. So this is the first command as well as basic command you need to understand. So I'm writing here commands. What is the first command? Sudo -i. This command is to switch to root user. To switch for root user. And if you want to see currently how many users logged into your system, you can give the command called who. The command who will give you which user is logged into your system. Previously, which user logged into our system, sir? Are you seeing the EC2 user here? So the command who will give you to show which user logged to our server. There is one more command called W. So I'm giving /W. That means alternate command for who. If I give who command or if I give W command, are you going to get the same EC2 user or not, sir? Okay. So this is the thing you need to understand. Again, I'm telling you one more time. Sudo -i is the command to switch for by default user in Linux is going to be easy to use. So I'm writing this point also. Default user. Who is the default user? Default user will be easy to hyphen user. In real time, we can't work this with this user. Why? Because he will not have all the permissions. So we'll be having only limited kind of permissions. Okay. So to switch to the root user, command is sudo -i. And if I want to check how many users logged into my server, I can use the command who, or I can use the command called w. Fine. Okay, sir. Now my next command is gonna be, for example, I want to see the IP address of my server. What I want to see? See, for server, we definitely have the IP address. So IP address will be two types, public IP address and private. So if you want to see the IP address of your server, there are three different commands to see. So I'm going to tell what are these three commands. First command will be IP addr. That is the first command. Are you seeing the IP address of my server? It is 172.31.26.129. This is my first command. So first command will be IP addr. Second command will be if config. Which one? If config. Even though if I run the same command called if config, I'll get the same IP address. Now you can go and see 172.31.26. Are you getting the same output or not, sir? That means you can go and give the IP addr, or you can go and give the command called if config. This is to show the IP address. And there is one more command called hostname -i. Which command? This is also to show the IP address. Which one? So let me go and give you here hostname -i. Are you seeing the IP address or not, sir? Sir, when you compare first command or second command, third command will be very easy to use. Why? Because if you give first command, you need to check where is your IP address. Even though for second command also, you need to check where is your IP address. But for the third command, we can check the IP address or not, sir. So this is the command what I use frequently. Again, if you can use IP addr or if config or hostname -a, ultimately you'll be getting the IP address. And next one is gonna be, I want to see my hostname. So give the command hostname only, hit enter. Currently it is your hostname. But by default, whenever if you log into your system, you can put your name as hostname. But to put your hostname, the command will be hostname ctl set -hostname. My hostname will be Raham. Of course, this command is some lengthy, but if you practice, it is going to be very easy for you. The command will be hostname ctl set -hostname, and I'm giving Raham here. What I'm giving? Previously, your hostname will be 172.31.26.192. It is your hostname. But if I give sudo -i, what is the hostname you are getting? What is the name you are getting? That means we can change the name of our server or not, sir? So in real time, if we have 100 servers, so this for the 100 servers, we are going to give the host names. Without giving the host name, we cannot identify the servers. So what is the command to give the host name? Tell me. Host name. First of all, host name is the command to show the host name. But if I want to set my own host name, command will be host name ctl set -host name, and I need to give the name. I am giving it as Raham. To set host name as Raham. No, sir, if I want to change the host name to some other name, for example, if I want to change the host name to Naresh IT, can you tell me the command by using above reference? Tell me. Host name ctl set -host name Naresh IT. But if I want to log into that host name, I need to give the command sudo. What is my current host name here? Naresh IT. In real time, if I have a web server, I'll gonna give the host name as web server. If I have the app server, I'm gonna give the host name as app server. So definitely for every server, you are going to put the host name. So by using this command, we can put the host name. Of course, there are some other ways to give the host names also. I'll tell what are the other ways in the file concept. There is a concept called file in Linux, working with file. So there I'm going to tell you how to set the proper host name for servers. So again, I'm going to recap these commands one more time for you. By default, who is the user in the Linux? But if I want to log into root user, what is the command? Sudo -a. And I want to see how many users logged into my server. Command will be who or W. Sir, I want to see the IP address. IP space, guys, here space is going to be mandatory. IP space ADDR. For example, if you go and give the command IP ADDR, it's not going to work. But if I put IP space ADDR, is it going to work or not, sir? Linux is case sensitive. If you give capital letter, or unfortunately, if you give some space or if you give some comma, it is not going to work. So make sure this point very, very clearly. So what is the command to see the host name, sir? Host name only. If I want to set my own host name CTL, set -host name and name of your host, whatever if you want to give. So if you want to log into the host name, again, you need to give sudo -. This is to log in to host name. Final command is going to be, for example, if your screen is completely occupied, if you want to clear the screen, the command will be clear. What is the command? But instead of giving this command, I can use a shortcut called Control L. What I can use? So even though if you give the command clear, your screen will be clear. But even though if I give Control L, you can get the same output. So guys, in our class, I'm going to tell you the main command as well as shortcut also. Because if you learn both commands, your work is going to be very, very easy. Tell me one thing, to clear the screen, writing the command CLEAR is good or Control L is good? So like this, I'll be teaching you the main command. With respect to the main command, I'm going to teach you the shortcut. So if you learn both of them, it's going to be very, very easy for you. Clear or Control L. So this is to clear the screen. That's it. So this is today's session. So guys, in today's session, primarily what we discussed today, we discussed about the operating system, right? So what is operating system? Types of operating system, what is Linux, and what is the importance of Linux, and what are the application? That means where we are using. First of all, what is the importance of Linux? 90% of servers are on Linux, and 85% smartphones are on, and top 500 like supercomputers will be Linux, and we have the gadgets. And coming to the application, we use it on VFX industries, space stations, cyber, cricket, defense, stock market, everywhere. So coming to the intro, it's a kernel which comes in the year 1991. It was given by the Linus Torvalds. It's coming to the free and open source type. That means we can see the code, we can modify the code, and we can distribute the code. Coming to the programming language, which programming language we used? See, what is the initial name of Linux here? But due to something, they changed the name Freaks to the Linux. Coming to advantages, it is free and open source. It's antivirus free. So it's going to be multi-user based. It is going to work very efficient, as well as we can install all kind of softwares and languages very quickly, and we can go into support with all kind of networks. Coming to the architecture, first of all, we'll be having kernel. Kernel deals with the hardware, daemon deals with the background service, shell is going to deal with the user input. Coming to the flavors, what is the meaning of flavor? Different types of Linux kernel. So Red Hat, Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, CentOS, all these will comes under the flavors. And coming to basic comments, we have touched some of the basic comments in the Linux kernel. So now my first question for all of you is, it is day one of Linux for all of you, right? So I think this is the first time you are hearing the Linux. So my question for all of you is, how is the day one for Linux for all of you? That means like, how's the class for all of you? Is it good for all of you? Everything able to understand? Online, can you please confirm how's the class for all of you today? All of you, can you please ping me on your comment section? Fine. So it was a great response from all of you guys. So everywhere I'm giving sorry, I'm getting the positive response from all of you. That was good to see. Okay, fine. So now we are going for doubts and queries part. So online, if you are having any kind of queries or any kind of doubts, you can raise your hand. I'm going to give unmute option for you. And offline, if you have any kind of queries over the course or like regarding this course, like anything, or regarding today's session or regarding today's topic, if you are having any kind of questions or queries, you can ask me now. And one more thing, again and again, I'm telling for all of you is, if you are getting doubt, please don't hesitate to ask. Feel free to reach for any kind of queries. Why? Because I want the session to be very, very interactive. If you are coming to the class, means definitely you need to leave the class by learning something new. Okay. Even though if I explain every concept for 3 to 4 times, at the end of the day, if you are not comfortable with so and so topic, ask me, I'll repeat it one more time. Okay. Fine. So first of all, here I'm going to give the unmute option for Debsesh Naik. Naik, you can go ahead and speak now.
Hello. Yeah, hi, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, sir. I still have a question. Like, since for Linux, we're calling it as a kernel, and kernel definition itself saying it's the lowest level of OS. But
Okay.
still, it's a OS. It doesn't like we shouldn't like our definition shouldn't be based on the quantify or like it shouldn't be based on how small or something if it is a
No,
OS
no.
then it's
Basically, Nayak,
an
let me explain you. So Linux
yeah.
is not an OS. It is the lowest level of OS. That is the reason why we are going to call it as kernel. Okay.
Okay, so but still it is an OS, right? So
No,
if
no, no. We can't call it as
uh,
OS, Nayak.
uh, okay, but
You need to
you
you need to give the term as kernel only. Okay.
okay, so but it's an OS, but we have given a specific terminology for
Yes.
it
Yes.
that is kernel.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Fine.
Okay. And sir, still I'm little bit confused about yesterday's part that SSH 22 we are giving that to connect to the server and we are giving 0 to
Yeah.
66,000 that
So
for
I got
yeah
your point, Nayak. Please remind me
yeah
this point on
uh,
tomorrow's session. Okay. At the starting of session, I'll show it lively. If I don't give SH, what will happen? Okay.
yes sir. And one more question I have.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the class, you showed us the Book My Show
Application. Yep.
application, web
Hmm.
application. Okay.
Yep.
So you showed us the our home page. In the home
Yes.
page, we don't have any like we are just seeing which all movies are available there. So we are not
Exactly.
interacting with it. But it's a part of the application, right? It's already deployed, so it will be in app server, right? Not in the web server.
Yes,
But you
I'm
said
going to
that.
talk about API. So there you can get the complete overview about like how it is going to interact, Nayak. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And guys, one
And
more
sir,
thing here I want to discuss with all of you is, so basically a lot of the people who think for fresher, we don't have any job as a DevOps. So this is going to be proof for them. So recently one of my student, his name is like Subramaniam. Okay. He got the package of 5 lakhs per annum. He was your previous 430 batch. That means currently your batch is 430, right? Exactly before your batch, there is a one more batch. Okay. He is from my previous batch student. As a fresher, being from non-IT graduation, he started learning the DevOps, AWS from this place only. Again, the class is going to be same class. Whatever the knowledge that I have given for them, the same kind of knowledge I am giving for you also. Don't think for fresher, you are not going to have any kind of jobs. I am telling you, as a fresher on DevOps, you are going to get opportunity from Naresh IT. Naresh IT will have a large placement team to work on the placements. So once your course is done, we are going to send you the placement notification for all of you through your email. So your primary concern need to be about the knowledge. Don't worry about your job. If you keep worry about the job, you will miss the whole knowledge part. So from the job perspective, Naresh Shetty will take care of everything. But from the knowledge perception, definitely you need to come to class daily. You need to listen to the class. You need to go to lab, and if you need to go to practice also. If you do everything in a systematic way, within 3 to 4 months, you can easily get the job. Okay. So, and you can see the package also for
Uh,
a fresher. 5 lakhs is going to be good package or not, sir? Yes. Fine.
sir, last question. Sir, is there any update of 9 a.m. class of yours for DevOps?
Not now,
Because I'm
Nayak. I'll
willing to
update you soon.
join.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you. So next, Unisha, you can go ahead now, Unisha. Cherukuru Unisha, you can speak now.
Told me everyone that Linux is not an OS. Then in Windows, which OS will be using, sir?
Sorry, in Windows?
I want- In if Linux is not an OS, in Windows, which kernel we are using, sir?
So components will be differ, Unisha. Okay. So here we are not going to primarily focus on the Windows. You can completely forget about Windows. Why? Because we never use Windows on our servers. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
if Linux is not an OS, right?
Okay.
It is lower level of OS.
Yeah.
Then how we are using in application, sir?
That you need
That
to
means
understand some of the basics about still operating system. I haven't done with the Linux part, right? So once Linux part is done, you'll be getting the complete clarity about it, Unisha. Okay. Here I just given day one of intro only. So there are still a lot of points to
Okay.
cover to get your query. So you'll be having some clarity after few sessions. Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. It is clear for me.
And one more thing, the syllabus copy will be sent to all of your mails. So online for your mails, you'll be getting the syllabus copy for all of you. And for the offline, you can go to the our admin called Beam. Okay. If you can go and if you can tell your WhatsApp number, he's gonna share the material link for all of you. That means like what are the course we are going to cover. The entire syllabus course is gonna be given by him. Okay. Hope it is clear. Yeah. Sorry. What about? Okay, so the notes you are going to get once you enroll for the course. So once if you enroll for the course, we are going to create the Google Classroom for all of you. Okay, in that Google Classroom, so whatever the course I am going to tell you, so daily notes, resumes, interview questions, everything will be included from there itself. Yep. 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 Multi-user based means multiple people can able to log in at same time and can work simultaneously. That is what exactly we can call as multi-user based. Okay. Basically, in our class, we don't install Linux. Already Linux is on AMI, right? If I use AMI, already my server will have the Linux. If you can go and see, in the server, I have my Linux operating system only. Where it is coming from? From my AMI only. So no need to install Linux operating system in our laptop. Fine. So next here, Akil, you can go ahead, Akil. Akil Muhammad.
Hello, Ram. Thank you
Yeah,
very much
hello.
for this. It was almost clear for me, but my doubt is not related to this subject, but it's about the overall course.
Okay.
For so I just want to know, like, because you started with AWS, so what are the other things in order you are going to complete? Or
so first of all, now I'm primarily focusing on the Linux, Akil. So from the Linux, I'll be going to DevOps. So finally, I'm going to conclude AWS with Terraform at the end. Okay, there is a systematic flow for our course. So don't worry about the flow. So what are the flow I'm going to teach you, you'll be getting the concepts very, very easily. Even though if you don't have any prior knowledge, our course will be having the sequential format to understand.
I want to know,
level
like,
overview.
now maybe you're saying that this is operating system topic. Then what will be the next topic?
Next topic is like working with Linux. So how to execute the commands, how to execute the scripts. So there are some commands you need to know from the Linux operating system. So then we can go for the DevOps itself.
Okay. So DevOps in the sense like Docker, Kubernetes, and
everything. First of all, you start with Git, Maven, Jenkins, Ansible. Then I can go for Docker, Kubernetes, and Terraform, as well as like Prometheus, Grafana. So all these together.
Can I get this structure like?
Sure. That's what I said. So whatever the mail you have given for the like Zoom link today. So for that mail, you are going to get the syllabus copy, Akil.
All right. Good.
Yep.
Fine. Thank you very much.
So guys, in the syllabus copy, I have mentioned from day 1 to day n, what are the topics I'm going to cover? Every topic I have mentioned from day 1 to day n of our course. So you can take that reference and you can check it. So next here, Chandini Krishna, you can go ahead. And one more thing, guys. So for the online people, for example, if you want to practice, but if you're unable to come to the lab, as well as from the people who is attending from the online from different location, if you want to practice, we are going to provide one Zoom link. From the Zoom link, you can join. And what are the doubts and queries you are getting? We have the mentor team available. Okay. So these mentors are going to connect for your doubts and queries. So online, once your registration is done, we are going to send the Zoom link for all of the people. Don't worry about the online sessions. Okay. And final, Vijay, you can go ahead now.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Vijay.
I actually work in Excel Technologies as a RDS agent in
Okay.
infra. So I wanted to change the domain to DevOps.
Okay.
So I need to, so internally, if I need to switch, they are asking for the certification.
Yeah, I just seen your query. So basically here, can I choose any alternate timing? So guys,
Yeah.
as of now, I said, currently our batch timing will be 4:30 to 6 p.m. But in future, there is new batch going to start, but it is going to start at the end of this month. So almost all we are having 20 days plus. Okay. Currently, if you are having the problem with the timing, you can enroll for this course. But whenever my new batch is going to start, you can jump to that batch. Okay, I'll provide the complete flexibility to switch from one batch to another batch. So you might have some health issues or you might have some personal problems. So for that reason, you might not able to attend to the classes. So in that case, you can come to my next batch whenever it got started. And for example, you listen to the class. So there is a topic called Kubernetes. If you are not able to understand after listening to the class, whenever I teach Kubernetes for my next batch, you can come to my next batch also. So these
Okay. Do
kind
I
of
get
complete
notified for
flexibility
that?
I can provide for all of you.
Okay.
Hope it is
So
clear
do
for
I
you.
get,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. And do I get notified for that? So since I am taking
Yeah,
some
definitely. So Naresh IT is going to send you the notifications. Okay, you can join on Telegram channel. You can get all the course details for it.
Okay. And it's 7 days in a week, right? Class daily.
Yes, yes. It's 6 days,
Okay.
not 7. It's 6 days
Okay.
from Monday to Saturday.
Okay, sir. And one more thing, for the certification thing, how
Yeah,
do
basically,
I?
Vijay, this is the general DevOps course, Vijay. That means I'm gonna cover all the DevOps tool. But for the certification point, here, whatever the Terraform I'm gonna cover, that is mostly enough for to write certification exam. And what are the additional stuff you require, I'll be going to guide you. Okay,
Okay, sure. Thank you.
fine. Okay, guys. So that's it for today. So let's meet on the tomorrow session with some other topic. Have a great day. Bye all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.